Hi, welcome to Psychology Today. I'm Ann Morrow, your host. This is a show about bicycling in general, but specifically about bicycle safety. Thanks for joining us. Our first guest is Tori Bortman, and she's from Gracie's Wrench. She's the owner of Gracie's Wrench. And she has kind of a unique concept about not just repairing bicycles, but helping the rider learn more about their vehicle. So we'll learn more about that real soon. Our second segment is we have Raul Atencio from the Beaverton Bike Gallery, and he's the assistant manager there. And we're going to find out a little bit about the store, but more importantly, how the staff and everyone is involved in the community and really vested in the community as a whole, not just trying to make money with the bicycle shop. I want to thank our volunteers who are running our studio here and running the cameras and everything, and we really appreciate their efforts. Without them, we could not have a show. And thank you to Northwest Bicycle Safety Council and Bruce Buffington, who's our producer, for sponsoring our show. So let's get started with our first guest. And so we've got Tori Bortman from Gracie's Wrench. And Tori, welcome to Psychology Today.
Thanks for having me, Ann.
Sure. And, you know, in my wanderings as a cyclist, it seems like whenever I mention Gracie's Wrench, everybody seems to know about you. Now, why do you think that would be?
I think I somehow wasn't the popular kid in high school or grade school, and I became the popular kid. I actually have just had my fingers in all aspects of cycling, or my feet maybe, and pedaled through all aspects of cycling. I've worked as a bike mechanic. I've worked for almost every major nonprofit in the city of Portland. I've worked for the city of Portland with teaching bike safety and bike mechanics. I've played bike polo, which not a lot of people know about bike polo, but bike polo, I was a bike messenger. I race bicycles now, so I'm involved with the sporting community end of it, and now I also mountain bike. So I have far-reaching networks.
You've got so many fans. Well, you kind of touched on it, but tell us about your biking experience. How did you come to be a bicyclist, and how did you get to be such an important fixture in the Portland biking community?
Well, I was an unlikely candidate to become a bicyclist at all. I moved to Oregon in 1998, and I didn't really ride a bike. And then when I started commuting with my bike, I thought going a mile seemed really far for me. And it was, I worked very early in the morning. I worked at like 4:30 in the morning, so it was pretty safe for me to go, so I felt pretty good. And then I started enjoying it more and more and became a bike messenger. And the nonprofit I became a bike messenger for also had a charter school, so I began teaching, and that's where my love of teaching really came out. And I didn't know how to fix a flat tire, though. When I started becoming a messenger, I had to call in to my dispatcher and have them come rescue me. And I hated that feeling. I hated that feeling of not knowing what I was doing. And so when the opportunity presented itself to start teaching kids bike mechanics, I thought I'd get the training.
Yeah.
But they didn't train me. They just handed me the book and said, go for it. And so I learned from my older students and started teaching the younger ones. And then when I moved up to Portland, I worked full-time as a mechanic, but for nonprofits where I was also teaching, helped develop the Creative Commuter program at the Community Cycling Center. And the more I learned, the more I realized that the manuals that I read were broken down for people who assumed you already knew your way around a bike. And if you already knew your way around a bike, you probably didn't need the manual. So there was this gap of information, and I more and more was inspired to close that gap. So once I became, to me, a qualified enough mechanic, I decided to kind of spread my wings and go out on my own and start teaching people how to fix their own bikes.
Interesting journey so far.
Yeah.
So tell us about the name then, Gracie's Wrench. How did that come to be?
Well, Gracie comes from, my great-grandmother's last name was Waters, and I DJ'd under the name Gracie Waters. But Gracie comes from, I was already using it in that aspect, and when I started creating my business, I realized that I was the person in the shop when I was wrenching that dropped tools and bumped into things and wasn't exactly graceful. And it reminded me of when I was a child, and my mom would always say, "Nice one, Grace." And I realized if I had come so far as to be able to be elegant on a bike and feel graceful and play bike polo and do all these crazy things that I was doing, that if I had the grace to do this, really anyone could. So it's kind of that knock that my mom used to give me, that I wasn't that graceful, but I was like, hey, if I'm not graceful and I can do this, really I can teach anyone.
That's encouraging.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very excited this weekend. I have a client coming up who had a fall and now is getting back on the bike. Just one fall once, bought a new bike, fell down on it, and now 2 years ago it sat in her garage. And I have the privilege to be able to help her get going again on the bike. And that's just what makes my job the best.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was going to ask you, what's your passion right now for the bike, as far as
my
riding?
main riding passion?
Yeah.
Right now, as a matter of fact, yesterday I went, and I'm all about mountain biking right now. Unfortunately, I don't want to leave Portland, but I kind of wish we had more mountain biking close in so that I didn't have to use gas to get there. There's very little that you can get to in Portland. But there's a great new facility called Sandy Ridge that's just out past Sandy, Oregon. And it is a mountain biker's dream. It's made by mountain bikers for mountain bikers. And it's a beautiful place, and you can just do all sorts of loops and adventuring. And so that's kind of where my heart is, because I'm someone that tends to think too much. And on the road, when I'm riding my bike, I can still have the little hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But when I'm on a mountain bike, I have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when I'm there in the moment, every moment, I suddenly realize I don't feel anxious or worried about the world. I'm just happy.
Now, and I found personally, I think I work harder when I mountain bike, and so the endorphins kick in better, so you get more of a high.
There's also a little bit of a fear factor, I think.
Well, maybe
there's
that's
moments
kind of
where I
adrenaline.
finally start feeling fast, and I'm like, whoa, not that fast. Okay.
Well, that's interesting. And you do bike polo still?
No, I haven't done bike polo in a few years, but what's interesting is when I left it, it had kind of stagnated. I wasn't sure if it was ever going to be a sport outside of Portland. And what's happened is, just as I was leaving the sport, some people in Portland were coming into it that were very passionate about it. And they have grown it into a national scene and connected it with people. And now it's literally, they have tournaments where people are coming from Canada and Washington, D.C. and New York to come compete in Portland. And it's pretty amazing.
So you really are knowledgeable about what's going on here.
Oh, yeah. I'm not quite an events calendar, but I do know
Close.
a lot. If someone comes to me and they say, where do I find, or how do I get to, or do you know anybody that would, I'm usually a person with the
or at least a lead.
At least a lead that might know somebody who knows somebody.
So what was the impetus to start your own business?
Being in the industry, there was a couple things that inspired me. One was the lack of there's the United Bicycle Institute, wasn't in Portland yet, and they're really focused, that's another bike school, and they're really focused on teaching mechanics on how to be professional certified mechanics. And I knew that there was a market out there of people that really just wanted to learn how to take care of their bike better and not be intimidated. And what I found since then is I've also got a lot of people who want to learn how to ride either for the first time, adults and kids, actually as many adults or more than children, and people who, like this woman I'm going to be working with on Saturday, who maybe have had an event happen where they've gotten away from the bike and they just need a little bit of help and confidence. So I was in the industry, and the industry doesn't have a whole lot of room to grow. You can become management, but even that is not got a very high pay ceiling. And then after that, you become a sales rep.
Yeah.
That's kind of the trajectory of most bike shops. And I didn't see that as my future. And I also have always kind of been a writer. So I also wanted to do something where I could start creating my own curriculums and writing. And right now I've been writing for Bicycling Magazine and a couple other publications. So I've gotten to add that in as an expert. So.
And do you write under your own name then?
Yes.
Tori?
Yes.
Okay. Just wondering what to watch for.
Yeah. So when you see things, I think my last one in bicycling was 10 mistakes to avoid in fixing your bike.
Oh, okay.
Usually articles like that.
And what is your business philosophy or your mission statement then?
I guess my mission statement is to make, I don't have an official one, but to make bikes and to put your bike in your own hands. I think so many people feel like, I don't know how to shift, or I don't know how this magical thing works. And it's not magic. It's just cables and levers and springs. And when you see that, oh, this is a lever that's connected to the cable that pulls on the spring, oh, it's that easy? And I'm able to show people that it's just, it's not the mystery that some bike shops make it out to be. There was a lot of knowledge hoarding. That was another reason I wanted to start my own business. Is I found a lot of people who, some were just unable to share information, but many were unwilling to share information and very impatient with customers who didn't know what they knew. And it just seemed a little silly that if someone's never told them, how would they know?
Yeah.
God didn't strike you down with the knowledge of how to fix a bike. It took some time and you learned. And I wanted to offer that service to people. So I really want people, whether it's just getting on the bike and learning to ride it a little farther, or changing a flat so that you feel more competent and can go farther, or learning how to repair your bike so you can go on that. I worked with a woman that was going on a bike adventure. She was actually a rower, but going on a bike adventure with a friend who dreamed this up, and they were going to go to Turkey for 3 weeks, have never bike toured before, bringing their bikes to Turkey to tour for 3 weeks. And so she just wanted to feel a little bit more, if something happens and I don't speak the language, that I'm okay. And when I'm able to give people that, and of course she didn't have any mechanicals on this beautiful magical trip to Turkey, but she had a better time because she didn't feel like she needed to, she wasn't scared.
Right.
She was empowered.
Right. Good word, empowered. So describe one of your recent classes.
Well, my most recent class was a maintenance class, and that was this past weekend. And that was a hoot. Once again, that was one of those where I teach in that class flat repair, basic maintenance, brake adjustments, and derailleur adjustments. It's a 4-hour class, and I limit usually it to 6 people per class because I feel like over 6 people and you start to lose the intimacy and the one-on-one attention that it really takes, because when you've got 6 different kinds of bikes, and you might have a recumbent bike and a mountain bike and a triathlon bike and a regular road bike, and you've got and a hybrid bike, and many of the people there have never even seen the other kind of bike that's there. You've got a lot of questions and variations, so I like to keep the class size limited. But this weekend was great just because one of the people that I worked with was going on another kind of big trip kind of thing, and just to see them come in, really be baffled at how their bike was working, and to walk out and feel like they could just do it themselves. It's so great. So especially derailleurs. Derailleurs are a big mystery to people.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, what safety issues give you concern? You see these clients come in and...
I feel like there's only 2 things you need your bike to do. Go and stop. And my biggest safety concern is people who don't either know how to brake properly or don't know how to check their brakes to make sure they're working properly. Sometimes I'll get somebody who comes in a class and their brake lever pulls all the way to the handlebar, and they knew that it wasn't stopping well, but they didn't stop to even go in a bike shop and say, hey, is there something wrong? If your car's brakes went all the way to the floor and didn't stop, you'd go into someone. So I'd say like that kind of safety. I'm trying to think if there's other major safety issues. I wish everybody was more courteous on the road, whether you're a cyclist or a motorized vehicular driver. I feel like that's just being more aware. We get, even on the bike, we get in our own zone of taking up the road, and I try to tell people, really teach people to be more aware of what's around you, because it can really affect how your day goes if you're not paying attention. And I would say that I've been hit by cars a few times, let's just say a few, and at least a couple of those were partially my fault for either putting myself and not being a defensive driver, or just taking too wide of a turn because I was having a good time coming down a hill and going into a curve, and a car was pulling out of a parking space and was across the center line, but just barely, and I was coming up on the center line and
Wow.
So things like that, where you're having so much fun on that bike, it's sometimes some sunny days like today, it's easy to miss.
It is.
That you really still need to be paying attention.
Good advice.
And be courteous, please. My #1 pet peeve is people who don't use signals. It's not that hard to just, in Oregon, all we have to do is point.
Yeah. However it works for you.
Yeah, and that's easy. Just point. You don't have to do any crazy.
No.
You can just point to where you're going. So have the courtesy. And if you're in a car, use your turn signals.
Yes. Yeah.
Oregonians don't seem to like the turn signal.
But you're right. We need to communicate with each other.
Absolutely.
That helps keep us away from each other.
And I think, that works on bikes, that works in the bike shop, to communicate with your bike shop of what you need and what you want. It's not really a safety issue, but another one of my big beefs with the bike industry, and especially bike shops, was that people come in and they need something, and they're coming to pay the bike shop to help them. They want to give them their money, and they're treated sometimes not very respectfully. And so I really encourage people, especially if they're new to cycling, if they're not treated well, say something to management. Really make sure, because most of the bike shops, I've worked for the Bike Gallery, I've worked for River City, they want the customer to have a really good experience.
Yeah.
And if they're not, they want to listen. And if they don't seem to want to listen, then that's not the shop you want to be at.
That's good advice. Just like any professional that you go to find what you need.
Well, if you went to a restaurant and you had really bad service and really bad food, or like, let's say, horrible service to the point that you didn't even want to eat your meal, you would say something or leave. And I encourage people. A restaurant will go out of business faster than a bike shop will. So I encourage people to let management know, because every shop that I've worked with really makes a point to go there and do that extra mile for customer service.
Yeah. There's a few that maybe get a little snooty. I've heard people say, I'm just an average road biker, and they act like if you're not a racer and, have the $10,000 bike, you're not good enough. And, you don't want to feel that way.
And it's funny, because what you might be talking to is the potential $10,000 bike person 5 years later.
Yeah.
You're building a relationship with a customer, and it could be years later. When I'm working with Gracie's Wrench, one of the things that I offer all my students is, you have access to me from now on. If you take one class with me or one session with me, if you've got a question completely unrelated to what we talked about, you can still call me or email me, and I'll answer it. Because I feel like that step of customer service, of really being there for people, makes a big difference, especially in that empowerment of, like, I think I want to go, but I want to make sure I have a backup.
Yeah. Nice. Well, what's your favorite part about being the owner of Gracie's Wrench?
My favorite part, probably one of my favorite parts, is making my own schedule, getting to kind of design my life, and the ability to take on projects that I wouldn't necessarily think to choose for myself. When I started writing little blog pieces for Bike Portland and a few other places, and then I was approached by bicycling, and I don't think I would have pitched to bicycling, but they came to me and said, okay, sure. Opportunities sometimes come up to travel that I get. Those are really fun, especially when there's a place where there's a lack of bike education, and I can go there and either train bike shops to be able to teach the classes, or I can train the people in the area themselves.
And so, as far as opportunities too, you have opened yourself up to the community, and you do community activities. What kinds of things are you involved in?
I'm really involved in the community. So I have a bike team that I race for. So it's not really a volunteer, but our bike team's pretty awesome. They're called Ladies Auxiliary, and we're all about having fun. It's I think our motto is friendship and awesomeness. So it's more important when we're racing to have fun than to win. We're not about winning. We're about supporting each other and being there. I work with the KBOO Bike Show, and the KBOO Bike Show is on KBOO on the first Wednesday of every month. And it's a show a lot like this one, where we cover bike issues and bike politics and we're not safety focused, but that's really fun because I get to meet a lot of different people from different walks of life. One of our best shows was having someone I might recommend for you. We had the safety engineers from the city of Portland, the ones who time the traffic lights and decide what paint stripes are going to go on the street, come on. And they were great. And there's someone who I never would have talked to, but it was kind of like having the science guys on. So there's that. I volunteer. I'm volunteering for a Girl Scout troop to help them get a badge I think we're going to call it cycling and cycling safety. I work with the Community Cycling Center's Girls Camp in the summer, and I get to work with a bunch of 10-year-old girls and tell them about what I do and do lots of fun stuff. And I tend to make a lot of donations to places, donations of service to places that are trying to raise money for different causes. I am a big person who loves to rescue. I'm a big supporter of dog rescue. So even though it's not in the bike community, I tend to give a lot of hours to dogs, and because I love my dog being able to run with the bike with me. I think it's pretty special, and so I'm pretty involved in that way as well.
So what motivated you why did you get involved in all these activities?
Well, when I first started working in the bike community, it was through nonprofits. And I really enjoyed working for nonprofits in some ways, and in some ways I didn't. My professional skills went up a lot when I went to a professional shop, like when I started working for River City in the bike gallery. My skills went up. So there was nonprofits are hard because a lot of smaller nonprofits especially don't understand that even though you're not for profit, you should still be making a profit. You're still a business that should be profitable, and the more profitable you are, the more money goes into your programs to help people. And I kind of got frustrated with seeing unsuccessful nonprofit models, but I still want to help them. The BTA, for example, they're a really well-run nonprofit. But it's taken them many years to figure that out and suss it out and figure out how to be sustainable. And they're going through another growth spurt right now. They're great, but they looked at where they were and they decided that they needed to actually consolidate a little bit, and that's what the BTA is in the process of doing. So I like to volunteer for places because it gives me the ability to give back to the community still and work with kids and work with different populations. I'm also going to be volunteering soon. This is going to be a first-time thing for me. It's a group that does homeless advocacy. So it's people who don't necessarily have housing. Sometimes they're in transitional housing. Often they don't have jobs. So we're going to do some flat repair and basic maintenance stuff with them to help them keep their rides up so that they still have, because often for the more transient or non-permanent address population, bikes and feet are pretty much your main forms of transportation.
Because even public transportation is
out of reach.
Yeah.
And when they're trying, many of them in transitional housing are trying to find a job. And it's you need to be able to get to a job, and bikes are pretty up there for a lot of them. So
opens up that radius from where you are to.
And again, in working with, whether it's 10-year-old girls, I don't have any kids, so I have some nieces, but they're not that old. I wouldn't get exposed to that population. So volunteering really allows me to become a part of communities that I wouldn't necessarily get to see and meet people I wouldn't necessarily get to meet, which is really exciting. I love people.
And empowering people again. That word comes up.
I love people, and I love being able to help people to help themselves. So I have a lucky job where what I do, I'm very passionate about it, and it makes me really happy.
I hope you can find enough mountain biking to do around here that you're not tempted to leave.
Oh, I'm not tempted to leave, although there might be some opportunities for me to be teaching within mountain biking. So that's a new area to explore.
That's really neat that you keep kind of transitioning, jumping around, not just...
Building my skill set is what I like to say.
But not just stuck in a rut.
No, you can't be. As a business owner, you can't be. You have to... That's something I tried to do early on in my business, and I've learned you've got to kind of grow and expand and rethink and always be making a plan, and then be willing to take detours.
So what attitudes have you said you kind of got into this in the late 90s or came to Oregon in the late 90s. What changes in attitude have you seen here in Oregon towards cyclists and cycling in general?
I think Oregon's pretty interesting in that we're seeing a lot more population. The number one explosion I've seen, and this is huge because it's huge for the future of cycling in a couple ways. Family cycling. People buying Bach feets, people buying trailers. It used to be trailers, but now there's these cargo bikes where I rode with someone today for 15 miles. She's very athletic with her 4-month-old. A 4-month-old in a baby carrier that attaches to a cargo holder in the front. So it's like a baby seat in a cargo bike.
Yeah.
And she rode up Mount Tabor and up
Oh,
Rocky
my
View
word.
with me. Oh yeah, she's very athletic.
Yes.
I don't know if I could do what she did, but we rode together, and that's really the future, both in building kids that are going to be riders, but also women are an indicator species of how things are going to go, and that's been the number one thing of how do we get more women on bikes. You make bikes accessible with your family, because women tend to be the ones who to do more of the family errands and take kids to school, and if you can make that be able to be done with bicycles, that's a big change. And I would say across the nation, you're starting to see just more people cycling. Portland has become, and Oregon in general, especially Portland, and I'm so excited. Actually, one of the big changes is how well Washington County is doing. Washington County has some of the most beautiful cycling in Oregon, and it's a great access point to other beautiful cycling, like getting to the coast. And there's been a real lack of infrastructure here, and there's starting to be a lot of momentum on this side of the mountain range, of their little range,
the hill, yes,
of the hill, that to see that accessibility and that safety starting to be built in, and the WASHCO BTA, the Washington County Bicycle, I think that's what they're calling themselves. That being here is a huge step, because there's a need in Washington County for people to commute and to have safe access to other routes. So that's really, really exciting. And that's something I've been wanting to see for a long time, and it's so exciting to know that the momentum is here and it's coming.
Well, thank you so much. That's great insight. You have a really unique attitude, and I really appreciate that. And so thank you, Tori, for joining us. And again, that's Tori Bortman from Gracie's Wrench.
Thank you, Anne, for having me.
Sure. And now let's watch a video about Northwest Bicycle Safety Council's 2011 Beaverton, Banks, and Beyond Bicycle Tour. And that this ride will be put on again in 2012. So as you watch this footage, imagine yourself on this route and come out and join us on August 25th. Let's see that video now. Okay, so that was footage from the 2011 Beaverton Banks and Beyond Bicycle Tour, and I encourage you to register now. Go to the Northwest Bicycle Safety Council website, and you can register there. The ride is August 25th. And let me read you something quickly from one of our bicycle fairs. This is Beaverton Banks and Beyond raises money for Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, and in turn then we have money to buy helmets and do bicycle safety fairs. So this is from the Chehalem Elementary, and it's Chris Sonishin says to Bruce Buffington, our president, "Thank you once again for creating a wonderful bike safety fair. every year that we've done this. I'm kind of surprised that we pulled this off so well. I think we've gotten pretty good at this. Plus, every year I'm thankful that we met, because without you, I'd probably still be looking for someone to help with safety, helmets, etc. Everyone works so hard and it appears effortless. It's so nice to work with such professional folks. Good luck at Greenway on the 19th. We're telling our kids who didn't make it to ours to go to Greenway. So that's the appreciation that Northwest Bicycle Safety Council gets for their activities in the community, and our bike ride is a way for you to enjoy a great bicycle ride and help us help our kids here in the community. And we had 360 participants at Chehalem, and 309 helmets were distributed and fitted properly on the children's heads. So please join us on August 25th. And now for our second segment, we've got Raul Atencio from the Beaverton Bike Gallery, and you're the assistant manager there.
That is correct, yes.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became involved with bicycling?
Well, I'm going to have to say that first it started when I was very little, about 6 years old. My dad used to take me to the BMX track that we had in town where I grew up, and that was one of the activities that I remember as a kid doing along with my dad. So it seemed to just stuck with me. So ever since, I've been an avid cyclist. From BMX bikes to road bikes to mountain bikes and everything in between. So, and I think pretty much around college was when I started getting more into mountain bikes, and that's kind of my main favorite style of riding. But I do a lot of commuting in my bike too, so I ride a lot around the city. And I just, in general, I enjoy being on two wheels as much as I can.
Just out of curiosity, do you own a car?
I do own a car. Yes.
So how did you get involved with the bike gallery and come to be the assistant manager there?
Well, with the bike gallery, basically I was just visiting the shops, and I started meeting some of the people involved from the management level. And I've been a very avid within the advocacy groups and doing a lot of building and trail works out there with the mountain bike side of cycling. And I just was missing the industry a lot. I was back in my corporate job, like I call it. I was behind the desk and doing everything my college degree taught me to. But it basically came to the point where I felt a lot happier being at a bike shop, and the opportunity came to join Bike Gallery. And I was quickly able to get placed. I started as a salesperson, but they saw my passion and how involved I was, and they asked me to see if I wanted to join Clue out of the Beaverton as an assistant manager, and I was happy to do so. So it's working out great. I really love the shop, and it gives me an opportunity to also get to know a little bit better this side of town, because I do live in North Portland. So it's been a great opportunity, to kind of have a fresh area to work with.
Yeah, it is a nice community. So tell us, what do you see your role as assistant manager is? Not necessarily what your job description is in the employee handbook, but when you walk into that store, how do you perceive your responsibilities there?
Well, I think one of my main responsibilities is to make sure that all the customers are getting taken care of and satisfied, and obviously in a way that they feel comfortable with the staff. So I focus a lot in just making sure that all the employees throughout the store are paying attention to the customers and doing it in a very gentle manner, because like you were talking about earlier, not all of us are avid cyclists, and not all of us know all the little names and details of how the bike works. So we try to put it into a level and try to determine at which level this customer or this person is walking into our stores, so we can make sure to cater and use the right language and use the right explanations, because not everybody is going to understand, be at the same level of bicycle knowledge. So
that sounds like a good approach. It's certainly been my experience. So what's your favorite part about working at the Bike Gallery?
I'm gonna have to say that just being around bikes, in general, I love bicycles, and just to be around bikes makes me happy when I get customers that are asking me about what's the latest product or what's the latest bike that you have or what's the coolest bike that you have. I just really enjoy sitting down and just spilling it all out. This is the newest stuff and just showing people what's out there, the new improvements, and the bike industry goes through a lot of changes really quick, so there's a lot of new products coming out, and most of these products are to help you, to make it easier, make it better for you. So it's really nice to be able to introduce this to different customers and see their reaction when they see like how useful these new things that are coming out are.
I'm sure that goes to different levels too, because the very beginner really isn't too interested in the cool new pedals. They just want something to put their foot on at this point. But what kinds of things are coming down the pike right now as far as new trends or new things for bicyclists?
Well, there's, I think you guys talked a little bit earlier about cargo bikes, and that seemed to be a trend that is coming really strong. There's people starting to ditch their cars, which is great. So you can go to the grocery store with a cargo bike and do all your grocery shopping, take your kids to school, and they seem to be a very utilitarian bicycles that people are starting to see the bike a little bit more than just a recreational tool, to also have a transportation tool. So I think those are great because we are seeing something that in the United States, we've been really car focused for a long time. So it is really nice to see all these different types of bikes coming out and getting very popular, so people can actually see the bicycle as a transportation vehicle instead of just, I'm going to go on the weekends and have some fun on my bike. But there's a lot more to it. And not only you're going to be healthier, but also we're going to have a cleaner city. And overall, you're going to feel great. You're going to want to do more activities. A lot of people think, I'm going to be really tired after riding my bike to work back and forth. Actually, you gain more energy because you exercise already, so you have more energy.
Right, and you don't need to pay gym fees or anything because
there you go.
You got your. So you see people owning more bikes. That is, you're talking about lots of different activities that would involve different kinds of bicycles. So I'm kind of imagining, like you must have, you enjoy mountain biking, so you have a mountain bike, and you commute, so you have a commuter, presumably. Do you see other people doing that as well?
Yeah, we're starting to see that more and more. People really starts with one style bike, and around here a lot of people start riding on the road, commuting from back and forth, or maybe during the weekends they just go for the occasional ride. But we're seeing a lot of transition where people comes into the stores looking for their next bike. What is it? What is the best bike for transportation? Or if we have a lot of people riding pavement or road bikes around there, maybe they want to join into the mountain bike, and just kind of get out in the woods and do a little bit of dirt riding, which it's got its different appeals because you are out in the woods a little more with nature, but you're still exercising. You're able to get a little bit farther on your bike that you are, let's say, if you're hiking.
Right.
So it's really fun to teach these new different or the different styles to different riders, so they can maybe join a new segment of the bicycle group. I myself, I own two commuter bikes and a mountain bike. And so I'm always looking for the next one.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And working where you do, you must kind of drool a lot about these different
Yeah, that's
bikes.
kind of one of the things. Sometimes working in a bike shop, it gets to be a little hard having all those beautiful bikes around all day long.
It would be. It would be. And what do you see as a lead employee at the bike gallery? People coming in with their bicycles that you'd like to correct so that they'd be safer out in the community.
Well, one of the things I do see it is I wish a lot more people wear helmets. To me, that is, and unfortunately, I see that a lot into adults. See, I have more adults tell me I don't want to wear a helmet than I have kids. So it's not a matter of you as a rider that we are not trusting your skills as a rider, but it's just all the drivers around you. Those are the people that you need to be aware of, because you may be really good riding your bike, but when that car comes in front of you or something happens where it's just all of a sudden, if you're protected, you're going to be a lot safer.
Yes.
And then just a small fall could really hurt you if you don't have a helmet on, because you can hit a sidewalk or something like that. But I wish a lot more people wear helmets, and again, mostly adults. I see a lot of kids. All the kids wear helmets, but that's the law.
Sure.
But we are the ones to show little kids and should be putting the example of why we should wear helmets. So.
Excellent points. The Beaverton Bike Gallery has been working with our Northwest Bicycle Safety President, Bruce Buffington, in the community, things like our bike fairs and things like that. So what kinds of outreach things do you like to get involved in?
Well, when it comes to outreach, I participate in a lot of different activities, and I think throughout the company we have people that goes from, like Clue helped you guys before with the Safety Council on supporting the bike rides from Beaverton to Banks, and we also are trying to promote right now the safety routes to school for taking little kids from their houses to school in the morning, so they can know the better ways to get out, the better routes to take. Me personally, I'm actually on the board for the Northwest Trail Alliance, so I do a lot of trail maintenance, and we actually last year spent about 400 hours here in Beaverton on the Eckler Park next to the fire station, doing a remodel of that park. And we're also putting a lot of hours with the Northwest Trail Alliance out of Stubbs Stewart Park, which is on the way between Beaverton and Banks.
Yes, yes.
And doing a lot of cross-country trails out there for all the people to enjoy. And it's actually, they're having an opening on June the 2nd out there. But I want people to have more access to places to ride their bikes, whether it's in the dirt or in the pavement. I just want more people and more bikes more often. It's kind of what the goal is.
That's a good broad philosophy. Good for you. Now, why, I don't know if you know, but why is Beaverton Bike Gallery partnering with Bruce, other than that he's very persuasive, as far as working with Northwest Bicycle Safety Council? That, the philosophy must be coming from upper management, but yet you seem to be motivated independently to be involved.
Yeah, we actually, throughout the company, they try to make a push to make sure that everybody tries to get involved, because there's definitely not only a benefit, there's a lot of personal benefits when it comes to nonprofit work, because you're doing it for others, but internally you feel really good because it's something that you're not doing to gain anything. Mostly you're just happy to share your knowledge or your time with other groups. And yeah, it basically comes from the top. Jay Graves, the owners of the Bike Galleries, he was actually been in the board for the BTA for several years until not too long ago, and he tries to pass that on to all of us to make sure that we are participating with the community in the different areas that the shops are located, because that's the only way to create more access. More people helping will give us more numbers and more voice, and we'll be heard.
Then we'll get what we want.
Yeah.
And we have been. That's really interesting. And do you find that overall the staff as a whole tends to latch onto this concept, or are there some that, I work here, that's enough?
No, we actually see that actually sometimes it's hard, because when we have events that we are promoting to try to get volunteers out there to help, we have too many offerings. Somebody's got to stay at the shop.
Oh, yeah.
But we do, when it comes to all the different, we're lucky to have a lot of events within Beaverton and Portland area. So we do get a lot of requests from either the Sunday Parkways or 12 Team Parks and Recreation to come out and help. So every time we get a request, we send as many people as we can.
And we see you out there, that's for sure. Now, Raul, if time and money was no object, what would you do for the community? If you could just kind of wave the magic wand and make bicycling better, what would be your focus?
I think I would like to see what bicycle ways, specific bicycle ways, like a bicycle highways, let's call it.
Okay.
At some, let's say, it's something that connects Portland to Beaverton in a little more direct way. Also, you guys touched a bit earlier on it, but we definitely need more access to dirt trails within the city. We have one of the biggest metropolitan, or biggest park within a metropolitan area in the United States, and you can't ride your bike in it. So there is, we're trying to make a lot of advocacy work to get more access. It's all about the kids having fun, getting exercise, getting out in the woods, and us getting more people on their bicycles. So if I could do anything, I will just create a big mountain bike park and a big highway for bicycles.
Well, and I think you're right that kids in particular, they don't so much want to go on a road bike ride. I know my kids found that to be a little boring. They wanted to do mountain biking, get the adrenaline going, take some risks. So that's kind of would draw kids in more to us, like you're saying, if we had more mountain bike availability inner city, then because parents can't always take their kids here and there.
Yeah, and one of the things that we see is that it is kind of unfortunate that to enjoy any good mountain biking, you have to get on your car to go out of the city. And, not all the parents can afford to take their kids out of the city or afford the time to get out of the city for the whole day. So if we had something within the metro area that you could, just ride pretty close, it'll be really fun. And, one of the things I see as a mountain biking is that there's no cars around you.
Yeah.
So when it comes to little kids, sometimes it's a little bit easier to be their stepping stone to get confident with their riding skills. That way when you put them on the street, as riders, they're very confident. And they know how to brake, they know how to react in an emergency. That I think that's one of the main things. They become really aware riders. And that is very important as a rider, that you got to be looking for people instead of people looking for you.
That's a good point, and to have children learn that. And I think Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, we would say too that then they're better drivers. If they do get in a car, they know the laws, they know a lot of that awareness and defensive driving, that kind of thing. So that's a good point. Why don't you tell us about your favorite ride right now? Where do you like to ride your bicycle?
Well, one of my favorite rides, I'm going to have to say, it's a trail called Ravens Ridge. It's a mountain bike trail. And that is the Tillamook Forest.
Oh.
So it's kind of in our side of town, a little bit out towards the coast, but there is a lot of, it's an ascension trail, it's a directional trail, so it's only one way.
Oh.
That way you're not going to encounter people going up the hill on it, but that's right now one of my favorite trails. I do really like just the Marine Drive when I'm riding around the city, just to take a little spin around Marine Drive. It's just really beautiful to ride around next to the river. And we're very lucky. We have a lot of good trails to ride. And here in Washington County, a lot of nice back roads if you want to ride your road bike here. So there's a lot of great road riding out here, just because we had just gradual hills and very nice valleys where it gets to be pretty fun.
There are a lot of nice neighborhoods to ride through here in Washington County. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your Ravens Ridge? Was it what's so appealing about that? Why do you like it right now?
Well, one of the things I like about the trail, I in particular do a lot of downhill mountain biking, which is a style of mountain biking where you're just going from the top of the mountain down. It's basically one of our first trails that is ascension trail for downhill specific. So that's why it's a one-way trail. That way you're not going to encounter people going up the hill on it. But you can always pedal up through the fire road and then just take your single track down. And there's just a little bit of everything. Steep, there's roots, there's a few jumps. So it's very challenging technically, and it's just a lot of fun.
I see. So are there signs up on the trail then that say that you can only go one way?
Yeah, this is a sign trail, so there's signs at the bottom and at the top that you'll find where you can do where you're going to start the trail, and if you by any chance you come towards the bottom first, you'll see that you need to go around it and then find the top of the trail to be able to come down on it. And that's a trail that it's been in place for a couple of years now, and it was all built by volunteer work. So it's that's one of the nice things about the area. That is most of the trails here are built by volunteers, and most of the advocacy work, whether it's within the city or out in the woods, it's all done by volunteers, and I find that very appealing.
And you're working in Stubbs Stewart State Park as well. That's new trails, isn't it? I mean, the park itself is relatively new, and part of their concept was to have mountain bike trails. I mean, we road bikers can ride up the Banks Vernonia Trail to that area, but there's also equestrian trails, and you're helping with the whole concept then of developing these trails. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. We've been laying out trails with Northwest Trail Alliance and the West Side Free Ride groups, building trails out there, and we actually have helped with the equestrian trails and the multi-use trails, because we feel like everybody's out there to enjoy, and we want to get more people out there. There is and you can pedal your bike, like you said, up to Stubbs Stewart, and then do some dirt riding or some mountain biking through. And all those trails are brand new. They're actually being laid out with our recovered trail building machine from the Northwest Trail Alliance. So we've been pretty happy that actually, as we speak today, the trail is out there doing some work.
Good, and that's just such a great area out there, and we've had people from Stubbs Stewart on the show, and we really try to promote that park. So I'm glad to hear you're involved too with that. Now, another thing that I think that Bike Gallery is involved in with technical support for Cycle Oregon.
That is correct. Yeah, we provide a huge support for Cycle Oregon, where we send a truck loaded with mechanics and parts to support the whole ride, and that is something that we've been doing several years in a row, and we really like doing it just because it's such a fun event. If you like riding your bike, that is something that you should do at least once, because we have some of the greatest roads in Oregon, and to be able to do that with a big group of people, you're going to find that it's a very unique experience.
It is, and we need. Well, I've done it a few times, and I know that Bike Gallery was there. Something is on a week-long ride. Something's likely to go wrong with your bike, or that saddle just isn't cutting it. And you guys have everything. I mean, you virtually bring practically a store out there, so you can get a jersey, new shorts, a saddle, whatever you need, plus the bike repair and along the road or whatever.
Yeah, we technically bring a store. We rent this big truck, and we put one of our stores in it.
Okay.
And bring it out there.
I was being facetious,
no,
but I'm right.
But yeah, it's just it's a great way to help all the bicycle enthusiasts to come out there and ride, and participate. And we're just glad to be able to help you and get you quickly back on your bike and having fun.
Yeah. Well, and the people come from all over the world for Cycle Oregon. So not only do the Portland people get to know Bike Gallery, but everybody gets to know what a great.
Yeah, this year was actually quite amazing. Cycle Oregon sold out in less than 20 minutes, the whole package. So it's going to be a great ride.
Yes. Have you gone along?
I haven't gone along yet, so I'm looking forward for this year to come out there and
good.
do some riding. Yeah.
Good for you. Well, as a last question, let me ask you, if somebody is kind of new looking at the bicycling world and wanting to start riding, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I think my main advice will be take your time. Get to try several different bikes and different styles of bikes. The main thing, the most important thing you can do is try the bikes. And not only one, but try several different bikes at several different shops. So you can see the difference between the bicycles, why one bike is going to be less priced than another, and why is the difference in the riding itself. That way you can determine what bike suits you not only on price, but also on style. Because you might think you want a road bike, or you may think you want a mountain bike, but you're going to be doing different styles of riding. So just take the time. You know, it's something that like clothing. You're going to be wearing this. You're going to be sitting on it. So you got to make sure that it fits properly. That way you will enjoy more your riding and be out there more.
That's good advice. I lead bicycle rides. I see people doing this kind of impulsively, maybe kind of peer pressure, and they find themselves on the wrong bike. And that's not a good thing. So, well, thank you, Raul, for joining us, and we really enjoyed the information about the bike gallery and you and your staff. And I think it's been interesting that both you and Tori, you know, you're not just in the business for making money, but you're part of the community, part of the bicycling community, and that's really encouraging that, you know, and it takes a village, and you're all involved in helping children, getting exercise and learning how to ride safely, and helmets on the heads. So that's really encouraging, I think. So
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experiences as a bike gallery employee and a cyclist.
Well, I will just have to say thanks from the bike gallery, and we're glad to be here, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. So that wraps up our show as far as our guests are concerned, and we really appreciate everyone, Tori and Raul coming. As I said, that shows that we have people in our community that are really interested in us and our riding and our safety. We've got lots of great bicycle rides coming up this summer, so please go to our website, Northwest Bicycle Safety Council, and see our calendar. And we've got Beaverton Banks and Beyond coming up on August 25th, and register now to do that ride. It'll help you and set a goal to do that ride, and it will help us because it helps us raise money to do these bicycle fairs and buy helmets for kids. I'm involved with Portland Wheelman Touring Club. We have the Pioneer Century coming up on June 2nd. That's out of the Clackamas County Fairgrounds in Canby. So please join us for that, and you can sign up through pwtc.com. When you're at pwtc.com, look for Bruce's name and my name, and join us for some bicycle rides. Thank you so much for joining us, and that's Psychology Today, produced by Northwest Bicycle Safety Council. I'm Ann Morrow.